Welcome everyone. We'll start at 4:35. We are waiting for more participants to show up. Till then, I'll be launching a poll for everyone to answer. So if you could just answer the poll while we wait. Thank you. Welcome everyone joining right now. We'll be starting at 4:35. Kindly answer the poll that has been launched. Hello everyone, one more minute to go before we start. I see a lot of you haven't answered the poll yet, so I would request you to do so. Okay, so it's 4:35 and we are ready to start. We have over 210 participants join us live. and more participants viewing our stream live from YouTube. I'm so happy to have everyone over here. Let me introduce myself. I am Vipanchi Handa, and I'm one of the co-founders of Oneistox. Welcome everyone and good afternoon. So, a bit about myself. Well, I am also an architect. I graduated from SPA Delhi, and I'm going to be talking a bit about something that is very close to my heart. So, I'm sure most of you have heard about Zaha Hadid, right? I mean, who hasn't? She's an inspiration to most of us. So, in a conference in 2014, this is what she had said, and I want to share it with everyone. She talks about how the current architecture education is disconnected from the profession, and there is this growing disconnect that keeps increasing yearly. Similarly, MVRDV, one of the best contemporary practices of our time that are inspiring so many new generation architects. He talks about Winnie Mass. He talks about how there is this concept of confirmation that is growing in architecture. More than innovation, ideas are being boxed in rather than be told on how to run free and think freely. OMA architects, again, one of the best contemporary practices, creating some of the most iconic buildings of our times. Here he talks about how, again, there's a big gap between academia and the practice, and how things like economic systems, which we aren't taught about, are so important to the entire industry. Well, why am I talking about it? So it's not just that, these famous architects talk about this growing disconnect and this growing gap that exists. It is something that we all talk about, right? I remember when I was in second year, sitting in the hostel room, we used to all keep talking about how, we're not being allowed to think freely, or, we have no idea what's happening in the industry and how we always feel so lost. So I want you to do a quick thing in the chat box right now. If you as architecture students, because most of you here are fourth, fifth year students, if you felt the same or you feel that there is a disconnect, just put in a quick vibe for yes, and let's just make this a bit more interactive. So I'll be looking at the chat. If you think that is true and what these architects are, the graph, OMA architects, they are talking about is true. Wow, okay. That is a lot of yeses and a lot of you agreeing with the same thing. In fact, I say yes. In fact, we say yes too, because this is something we as architecture students, as professionals, it is something that is a reality for us. We are facing it every day, and we have talked about it a lot too, right? Okay, thank you so much, guys. Very interactive, all of you. Okay, so now the question comes that yes, there is this growing disconnect. So what do we do? What do we do about it? Well, the question that I ask is why 1:x, and the growing disconnect that we felt, that I felt personally as a student while studying in architecture, is what led me to start, along with my other batchmates, 1:x. And this is the very thing that 1:x aims to solve, and aims to like bridge the gap for this growing disconnect. So this is why 1:x. And to tell you a bit more about myself, I graduated 3 years back. So, so for example, during college, I was one of those good kids, as you may call it. So, I used to be one of the toppers, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate, topper or not. But we are throughout the college, we keep thinking that whatever we are taught, we know everything, or answering those exams or doing those design projects are preparing us for what is to come, or the real world, as a faculty might refer to it as. But when I graduated personally, when I was getting freelance projects, when I was trying to start working on different projects on my own, I realized there was a lot that wasn't taught while I had scored, let's say, a certain percentage in exams, or I had completed design projects that were, well, they were good, but when it was the time to actually, work in the industry, there was this gap that I felt. I didn't know how to talk to clients. I didn't know how to negotiate. There were a lot of small things that you think don't matter. I even didn't know how to plan out my career or professional growth. So, this is one of the reasons why we at 1s2x are trying to bridge this gap and are trying to make better informed decisions for the architecture community. So, to sort of sum it up, when I was facing these issues, and along with that my other co-founders were facing the same issues, we realized architecture and design is not just about making pretty things or building buildings. It's about bringing innovation in everyday life and bringing innovation in how our systems are. And rather than just sitting and talking about it, which, well, I did for a lot of time, but then there's a time when you stop talking about it and you actually do something about it. And this is why we at 1s2x are trying to bring a change through online, through offline, trying to connect with all of you and do something together. So, apart from that, well, I want to personally thank all of you who have come for this 1.5 hour session. I know that, taking time out on a Sunday is tough. You might have submissions tomorrow. You might want to spend time with family. But the fact that you are coming here, taking that 1.5 hour time and accepting that, there is more to learn apart from just the college, and there is more to learn generally. It shows how committed you are and how motivated you are as individuals. So I would like to clap for all of you for showing up and making that effort that matters. So now I bet let's get to what this session is about. I would like to talk about Oneistox Intalks and how this particular session is going to pan out. It's going to be 90 minutes roughly. We're not going to keep it longer, don't worry. And over here, after this, we'll be giving the floor to Nishita. She'll be talking about what the topic about architecture thesis. And we are going to have a Q&A session. So this is something that we try to do at 1s2x. We try to make things as interactive as possible. So you guys have sent in a lot of questions over the past 4 days. Huge, like really interesting questions which we've compiled. So we'll try to answer a lot of them, as well as we'll keep the floor open for live questions during this session as well. And Nishita will be answering it. Apart from that, I have something special planned out for you, which is going to happen right at the end of Nishita's session. And I'm sure you guys are going to love it. And so now to start off, I attempted my thesis 3 years back, and Nishita was actually my senior, and she had attempted her thesis 6 years back now, I guess. And while I was in college, she was one of my personal mentors. And I am so proud. I couldn't be happier to have her share the kind of mentoring she did for me and share her personal insights with all of you today. So, Nishita, I think I would hand over the floor to you so you could carry this forward. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Vipanshi. Thank you for such a sweet introduction. Without wasting much time, I'm going to do a quick tech check, see if you guys can see my screen. Give me a second.
Also, in the polls, I see a lot of you are attempting thesis online this year. So I
Wow, that
think
must be really interesting for everyone. Okay, done. Can you all see my screen now?
Okay, yes.
Awesome. So, hi everyone. Thank you for coming here. Happy Sunday to everyone and congratulations. The reason I say congratulations is because, as Vipanshi said, I think that taking this first step towards taking charge of your learning, taking ownership of your learning, and showing up here on a Sunday evening is a fantastic step on the behalf of all of you. So now I just want to begin with a quick fun activity to warm up, and the emphasis is on fun, okay? I'm guessing most of us who are signed in identify as architecture students. If there's anyone from another background, you can quickly type it into the chat, maybe in 20 seconds. But what if you weren't an architecture student? What if you were from the place that you were not from the place that you're from right now? What if you were not from the same family? What if you did not go to the same school? What if you had a chance to decide every aspect of your identity? What would you want to be? If you had to imagine 5 alternative lives that you'd really enjoy, what would they be? I want you all to quickly grab maybe a piece of paper or just type it out on your phone, and we're going to talk about this a little more. So take 2 minutes. You don't have no pressure. You don't have to share it with us. The idea is to write down what you think you would have loved to live through. I've listed down some fascinating imaginary lives on the screen to inspire you. But please think of your own for this. And let's take 1 minute or maybe 2 minutes to write down our imaginary lives. Wow, I'm also seeing some people post on the chat. Amazing. This is an introspective activity, and please feel free to write down your list at your own end. Amazing. I hope that all of you have 5, if not more, and you can continue thinking later on if you want. Now, what if I told you that your thesis project is your chance to experience pretty much any of those imaginary lives? Surprised? Don't be. I want to share a quick personal story. One of my imaginary lives when I was a student was to be a travel curator. I didn't know what travel curation was even a profession as such. I thought it would be a hobby, but I knew that I enjoyed traveling, and even more than traveling, I enjoyed crafting itineraries for people in a way that they could authentically interact with all aspects of culture, whether it was building crafts, food, music, philosophy, traditional costumes, and even meet the locals there. So, for my thesis, I designed a heritage nexus where people could not only experience heritage but also contribute to its conservation. Then, many years later, when I finally realized that travel curation is a real job, I was already equipped with the foundational knowledge to start picking up projects in that industry. Because of my thesis project and the research that went into it, I was able to make my imaginary life an actual reality when the opportunity came that way. Not to mention, I kind of sort of got to live the life of a travel curator while doing my architectural thesis itself. So I actually look back at my thesis with very fond memories. It was the first time I got to really express my interests through my project, explore my own style of designing. Everything was my decision, no group work. So if you look at it, I think the thesis is a pretty exciting experience. But then, why is it that we're all here only semi excited and semi stressed as we talk about our thesis journey? Why does the beginning of the thesis semester feel so damn challenging? Quickly jot down whatever your thoughts are in the chat, and I'm going to try to read out some of them. I think you guys are a really interactive audience, and I'd love to take a few moments to understand what's on your mind right now. So, research is scary for you, Akash says. Okay, research, not able to find the right topic, Kajal. Zahra said, so much work, so less time. Vinuta said, choosing topic, where to begin. Lots of comments on topic selection. To give my thesis topic tomorrow, no time to think and decide. Nidhi, I think good timing for you because I'm going to give some very quick tips, and I hope that you all will be able to apply them very soon. Professor's not approving the topic, site selection. Okay, amazing. It's like the final shot. Sthiti. Don't worry, Sthiti, it's not the final shot. It's also your first time. And okay, lots of comments still coming up. I will move on. Okay. There's just so much to do on our own. As someone rightly pointed out right now, it is a project of our student life, but also the one with which we will transition into the professional world. Talk about pressure. The thesis semester also brings with it a type of independence which may be newfound for many people. Selecting a topic on our own and practicing our judgment to decide whether it is a good topic or not. Having decided for ourselves, then convincing the faculty about our choice. It's the first time that there is also so much emphasis on research, as some of you have pointed out over here. We're working on a completely unique project that no one around us really understands. And in case you get creatively stuck, it's rare to find a friend who'll, immediately understand and be able to jam with you on ideas. And finally, who's going to tell us how to present all of this effectively and in a timely manner in the final jury? There's a lot going on. Now, these were some of the questions that I also had in the past as a final year student at SPA Delhi. Even though I had the most fantastic thesis guides in the studio who really helped me become a better designer, of course they had limited time and they couldn't help me with all the questions that weren't really related to designing the building itself. I wasn't their only student, right? They had 10 more to guide along with me. And even the seniors that I had often gone to for guidance in the past, they had now graduated and were busy with their own lives. So I had to take matters into my own hands, read a lot, and think a lot, and speak to a lot more people outside of the studio to supplement what I was learning in the studio. While I could only answer some of the questions during thesis semester itself, I actually continued searching for more answers after my graduation too. Cut to now. I have worked professionally for quite a few years. I have researched extensively. I have continued my own learning process as both online as well as real time in places like IIM Ahmedabad and the Tibet House. I now seem to have answered most of the questions that past Nishita on the right would have had. I have found mentors in all the creative industries that I have explored, whether it is architecture, exhibition design, graphic design, travel curation, writing. I have found mentors everywhere. I have found people who go the extra mile to inspire me and teach me something that I am craving to learn. And today, as I speak to you all, I am grateful for all of it and I want to pass it forward to you guys. And my way of doing so is by trying to share this knowledge with as many people as possible. For that reason, I want to keep today's Intalks interactive. So I'm not sharing too much theory today. That's not what Sunday evenings are for. Sunday evenings are for indulging our curiosities. And based on all the brilliant questions that many of you have submitted during the registration, I know what your curiosities are. Honestly, past Nishita had the same pressing queries at the cusp of the thesis semester. So, the top three curiosities that most of us have are these. How do I select a good thesis topic? I know, right? How can I find the inspiration to come up with good ideas? And finally, how do I compile my entire semester's work for such a short jury presentation? All of these questions and many more are actually answered in great detail in the 1 is to X online course. But even then, in today's session, I'm going to try my honest best and give away as many highlights and knowledge as I possibly can in this limited time frame, of course. So let's dive right into the first question. How do I select a good thesis topic for myself? Before we begin, let me tell you that the entire first module of the course focuses exclusively on selecting a good topic. My lecture with selected examples from other architects whose thought process I really appreciated. That is supplemented with quizzes, action points for you guys to keep acting upon all the knowledge as well as the final assignment. You might have heard people say that pick a thesis topic that you're passionate about. You might have also heard other people say that man, just pick an existing straightforward project, you have really limited time. So, what is a good thesis topic in this case? What does good imply here? Both sides are true, and it's not an either or situation. A good thesis topic needs to be one that is a balance of passion and logic because the two don't work independently. Logic alone will bring about a very limiting mindset, whereas untamed passion will leave you at the risk of feeling lost as the semester progresses. It is very much possible to aim for balancing the two by carefully considering four pillars of a well crafted thesis topic. Now, at this stage, before I go into the four pillars, I want to do a quick check if all of you can hear me. If the 1:X team can let me know.
Yes, Nishita.
Okay, awesome. Great. So, let me jump right in to the four pillars of a well crafted thesis topic. These are, the first is what you love. Now, what you love implies a very strong personal interest. Remember the five imaginary lives that you guys just thought about? Those are implications of what you love. A strong personal interest is where the authenticity of your project comes from. And it turns your project into something that you will feel really proudly connected to throughout the thesis journey. And it will also keep you motivated as the semester gets a little more challenging. And the great thing about an architectural thesis is that it allows us the opportunity to do that as well. Think about those five imaginary lives. Each of them has the potential to inspire an architectural project. The second is what you're good at. Skill and knowledge is very different from interest. Because you can be skilled at something and not really interested in it. That is how this is different from the first pillar. If you've ever heard someone describe a time when their performance excelled and they were really in the zone, they were likely describing an experience of creative flow. And that creative flow occurs when our skill and knowledge level and the challenge at hand are equal. Now, each of us has a very different skill set. So it's absolutely essential to take this into account and match the complexity of our thesis project to our unique skill and knowledge base. The third is what the world needs. In my opinion, the true value of architectural design lies in our ability to design spaces that solve human problems, not just in designing structures that address technical problems, which engineers can also do very well. So, the third very important pillar is what the world needs. And to understand what the world needs, we need to inculcate a sense of empathy. We talk about empathy a lot in the actual course, but I want to give you a general sense of what it means. Empathy is our ability to see the world through other people's eyes, to see what they see, to feel what they feel, and experience things as they do. And who are these people? The people from whose perspective we want to understand the world is the users of our architectural space. This empathy is something that we can continue applying at every stage of the thesis journey, whether it is in selecting a topic or whether it is in finally formatting your presentation for the jurors. And finally, what is feasible? During this process of crafting the ideal thesis topic, we must also remember that we are doing all this within the constraints of, as well as the opportunities, not just constraints, and opportunities of a design studio in a school of architecture. Some very common constraints that you can keep in mind while selecting your topic will be they will include some quantitative constraints like site accessibility and the minimum or maximum site area and built up area that your project must cater to. Even the timeline is a constraint in itself. Let's remember that we only have one semester. We have to choose a topic that we can do justice to in that duration. If we have taken these four pillars into account, it helps us in two ways. It helps us gain inner conviction that we've selected a meaningful topic which we will enjoy and which will serve an architect's purpose of benefiting society at large. Secondly, we will be equipped with the right reasoning to defend our choice of topic in the face of external questioning. Whether it's your faculty right now, whether it's in a discussion with friends, or whether it's the external juror at the end of the semester. If you have your logic and reason in place for why you have selected a thesis topic rather than saying, oh, this was available, it always works best for you. Now take a moment and let it all sink in. Maybe jot down all the thoughts about your own interests and purpose that are coming to mind right now. I'll give you guys maybe a minute to do that. I don't want to keep rushing at this really fast pace. You don't really need to share in the comments, but if you'd like to, that's perfectly fine. This time is for you guys to take it all in and note it down for yourself. Okay, so before we move on to the next question, I want to hear from you guys. What do you do to look for creative inspiration? Or let's say when you're feeling completely blanked out, how do you move it up to coming up with new ideas? Just put it down in the chat and I'll try to read some of them. You watch movies? I mean, sure, like movies are a great source of inspiration. Nature, maybe take a good sleep, case studies, TED Talks, listening to master architects, Pinterest, travel, sketch and scribble, music. Great. Do something completely far away from the project, gardening, studying human behavior, research anything, newspaper articles, TED Talks, paintings. Awesome. These are all amazing activities. I think sometimes stepping away from the problem itself can, looking at it from a faraway perspective, looking at alternate sources of inspiration can really help us a lot. And stepping completely away, maybe going for a walk, there are lots of benefits of that for the creative mind as well. If any of you are really interested in discussing creative, the process and the psychology of inspiration in more detail, we're going to chat, we can very well chat about that later. For now, I want to talk about the process of ideation in the face of a submission. um, so what do we end up doing generally? We often sit down and try to think of one big idea that's going to be the game changer for our project. We want to crack it right away. But during this search for the one big idea, what we unintentionally end up doing sometimes is dismissing or eliminating many, many small ideas which might have had the potential to grow into bigger ones. But just because they don't immediately feel really big to us, we discard them right away. I want to give you all a very quick introduction into a two-step ideation process called divergent and convergent thinking. When we adopt the process of diverging and converging our ideas with intention, we're able to give due time and respect to all our ideas and evaluate them to come up with the best ones. Let me give you a quick look into how this happens. The first step is to diverge. This is the time for unrestrained idea creation, to go wide. and develop a large pool of ideas. At this stage, no idea is too silly or unfeasible or too outlandish or not good enough. Every idea qualifies. You want to think of an anti gravity room for office recreation? Go right ahead and note it down. The intention is to create a lot of creative choices for our own self. Whether it's technically feasible, whether it's serving a purpose, don't start judging right away. When you're creating choices for your own self, suspend all judgment. And then we move on to converging the ideas. Imagine you've come up with a pool of, say, 20 or even 30 small ideas. It is now time to consciously evaluate the pool of ideas that we've come up with. So, for example, instead of having dismissed that anti gravity room and many more such ideas in the first go, you now have the opportunity to think about it in a little more detail. While converging, we want to hang on to the possibility of some unlikely ideas as well. What if you find an alternative that makes it more feasible while serving the same purpose? We want to shortlist our ideas very mindfully. The considerations for shortlisting might be very different for each project, and that is something that you can take a call on based on what your topic is. But generally, you can use parameters like most likely to delight, most rational one, and so on and so forth. I hope that all of you will try out this method of ideation where you allow your imagination to create magic and then apply a layer of logic to arrive at the perfect solution. And now, finally, the third big question: how do I compile my entire semester's work for such a short jury presentation? Again, there's a whole module on this in the course, but I'm sharing all sorts of sneak peeks so that any one of you here can really go back and apply some of the learnings from today's Intalks back to your thesis. So for this, to compile all your work and make a really impactful presentation, I want to leave you here with two words: relevance and structure. We go really deep into this in the course, but here's what you can do to start off. So, the first is relevance. Think about the audience that will be listening to your presentation. It's not your friends who want to know all the fun bits of your thesis journey, and it's not even your faculty who want to know how every stage of the design progressed. When you're in your jury, the jury member's perspective is very different. They want to know about the overall thought process and the final design outcome. So we have to really shortlist and condense our entire journey into maybe a 7, 10, maybe max 12-minute presentation, depending on what your college allows. And here it can feel really hard to choose what to share at this stage. You all would have worked so hard, and when you're right in the middle of your thesis, you feel like everything's important. Let me tell you, it's everything is not important. What you have to do is zoom out of your work and take a bird's eye view of the whole thesis journey. This will allow you to shortlist what is truly important for your presentation, and you can peacefully leave out the rest. Trust me, if there's anything in your presentation that your jurors feel a little more interested about, they are going to come back and question you on it and give you the opportunity to share more about it. But in the first go, it's really important to respect the time of the jurors and allow them to get enough time to really absorb your presentation and give some meaningful ask some meaningful questions and carry forward the conversation in that way. And the second is structure. Please structure your presentation beforehand. Now, any good presentation would have a solid beginning which captures the jury's attention, an informative middle portion where you talk about your process and outcome in more detail, and a very strong ending which summarizes what the design contributes to society, to the design community, and to yourself as a budding architect and designer. In addition to all this, All the rules of good public speaking apply. Get a good night's sleep beforehand so that you don't feel really tired. You can answer the questions well. You look bright and vibrant and energetic during your presentation. Trust me, these things really matter when the jury looks at you and your work and the enthusiasm with which you're presenting your work. And finally, rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. Please, please practice the. Someone's written, can you repeat the beginning part? So I'll take questions later. Anything that you have a doubt on, it gets a little distracting. Sorry. But by the way, what I said was to have a very solid beginning that can capture the jury's attention. Because as you know, there are maybe 30, 40, 50 people presenting in a day. So you have to really capture the jury's presentation attention right in the beginning of your presentation. Okay, now, I've answered three questions for you guys, which I felt were the most common ones from amongst what we received during the registration, and also what I think my past self would have had when I was doing my thesis. But there are many more challenges that might come your way. So, what we've done is this course has been designed in the form of modules that have been created around the journey of a thesis student rather than on what the deliverables are going to be. It's been personally crafted by me. There are different frameworks and worksheets for you guys to practice the learning modules through action. Very importantly, it's not just my perspective that has gone into building this course, but also that of many industry experts who have been invited to become guest mentors in this course. Finally, this is what I consider really important. It's a self paced course because that is how we believe that learning happens best, when it's self motivated. If your creative hour is from maybe 4:45 p.m. when the rest of the world is slowing down for a chai break, go ahead, switch on the course and study. Make this course work for you. You can do this course as questions come to your mind instead of just on a already set schedule. You can do this, also come back to it when you have doubts. But want to share one thing. What remains consistent, no matter how you do this course, is the knowledge that this course will guide you towards a really high performing thesis. By this, I'm talking about a thesis that brings you together in all that helps you bring together all of the knowledge that you have gathered in 5 years of architecture till now, and also set a foundation for the future. A high performing thesis would also be something that helps you find your unique voice among an ever growing number of architects and designers. And a high performing thesis is going to be one that you will be proud of for a lifetime. That's what I wanted to share with you all about this course very quickly. I am extremely excited to open the floor for questions. But before that, Vipanshi has something to share with you all.
Thank you, Nishita. So the questions that Nishita answered right now were the ones that we had received in bulk, like they were majority of the questions. And we will head over to the Q&A. So basically, any questions that you guys have, Nishita will be answering those questions live, and I will invite each one of you to ask that to her, and we'll turn your audio on for you. So now before that, I think Nishita has been mentioning about a certain course. So this is something that 1is2x since the past few months has been receiving a lot of queries from fifth and fourth years about the architecture thesis. So this is how the particular course, how to approach architecture thesis was developed. And like the questions that we got right now, which were the starting questions about, things like how to select thesis topic, etc. There are a lot of other questions personally that as we also as students have faced in our fifth year and our 4 to 6 months of semester long project, wherein we start asking questions about creative blocks, about case studies, about design development, jury presentation, etc. So this entire structure and course developed by Nishita called How to Approach Architecture Thesis is a self-paced course that talks about this thing. So don't worry, not too many questions. Nishita is very patient in talking about each one of them. So these are the different modules that are being covered in the How to Approach Thesis self-paced recorded course. And it is something that goes along with your thesis semester with a lifetime access. Apart from that, like Nishita mentioned, there are a lot of workbooks and self-paced exercises. For example, the how to select thesis topic is actually part of an exercise and a workbook. Apart from that, few exclusive interviews. So now this is the part that gets exciting. And like I mentioned in the start, I am extremely happy that so many of you showed up today. So this is something that is very, very exclusive from the 1:X team just for the people attending the webinar. And it is going to be applicable for the just 1 hour that the 1 hour starting from now. So basically it's going to end by the time, by 7 o'clock today, and it is something wherein we have combined the self-paced course along with a 1 day live workshop from Nishita. So students who register today who are part of this particular webinar get to attend this exclusive workshop. This is not available on the 1:X website, as well as you get lifetime access to the self-paced How to Approach Architecture Thesis course. So we'll head on to the Q&A aspect of it. However, you can just apply the code thesis live and you will be able to get this within the coming 1 hour only. So I hope this is something that you find worth, and you can, sort of push your boundaries more with understanding the various aspects that Nishita has to talk about. So coming back to something that this is regarding how to register. So if you check your inboxes right now, you must have already received an email talking about the registration process and also sharing this coupon code with you. So the Q&A. Now, the time for the Thesis Live application starts for the coming 1 hour. Till then, we'll start with the Q&A. You guys can start putting in your questions in the chat box. What I'll do is I'll start taking everyone, whoever has the question. I'll be personally asking you to come and ask the question to Nishita. So guys, you can start putting in your questions right now and we can start the Q&A live session. Okay, so Akshita asked the first question. So I will ask Akshita to unmute herself. 1 second, Akshita Agarwal. If you could, I'll send you an unmute request. Hi, Akshita.
Hi. Okay, so basically my question is that how do you decide upon the scale of the project? Because there are people doing a UD scale project while there are people just doing a museum sort of a project. So how do you decide on that? Because the marking criteria remains the same.
Hi, Nishita.
Thanks. I just got the unmute request. Thanks, Vipanshi. So, hi Akshita. Sorry, I hope I got your name right.
Yeah.
Thanks for this question. I completely understand. How do you decide on the scale of the project for the thesis? And you mentioned some people are doing UD and some people are doing probably a smaller museum. Now, one of the things there are two ways to go about this. Some of them would be constraints of the studio. What is the minimum size of the project required by the studio? In your college, some colleges would have a criteria, say minimum 10,000 square feet or some such number would exist. So I'd highly recommend you speak to your faculty. Now, again, your faculty would give you a range. They will not give you the exact size, right? You're free to select within the range. Now, within that range, please look at the building program that you're trying to create. This is the range that you can work within. Just for the sake of this conversation, let's say 10,000 square feet to maybe 50,000 square feet. Okay, just a very random number that I've picked. Within that range, look at your program. You would have a rough, once you start selecting your thesis topic based on these 4 pillars that I've discussed, you if your site demands, if all of those 4 pillars lead you towards designing something like a housing complex, that nature of the project would have an appropriate size for it. It takes a certain amount of judgment to decide how big or how small this should really be. So there are 2 things that I'm pointing towards to just quickly recap. Some constraints from the administrative perspective of your college and the fact that you're doing a thesis, and secondly, it has to be appropriate. While designing the building, don't include extra functions that are probably not required by your users, that are already existing in the surrounding of the building. Don't duplicate functions, and don't exclude them either. If you feel that your users really need a certain functions, for example, they need a gym on this site for some reason, go ahead and include it. So cater to your users response, give the optimum number of functions to the building, and work within the limits of your that have been set by your studio. I hope that's been helpful, and beyond that, it's a little hard to discuss without the exact project in mind.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you so much. So the next question is by Vikram. Vikram, if you could just unmute.
Yeah. Hello, Nishita, man.
Hi, Vikram.
Yeah. Actually, the when we start the thesis, the more confusing part is the how to organize the structure. Means topics, how to choose the topics, which topics to research, and how to divide that in subtopics. That comes creates some confusion for thesis also.
Hmm.
So how to
So,
organize it mainly
so when you say organize it, are you talking about research or topic selection?
after research.
So for the book, are you asking how to
Yeah, for the black book.
yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So for the thesis book, you want to understand that you've done your topic selection, you've done the research, and now you want to go ahead and organize it to present it for the final book,
Yes.
right? Okay. So there's one thumb rule that I give you. The book is a compilation of your entire journey, right? You can always go chronologically in terms of break it down into subsections depending on how for example, obviously thesis selection would guide your research, so you can always organize it in a chronological manner. And there will also be some guidelines from college which you build upon, add your extra bit. If there is some research that you've done extra which you feel should probably come after design development, go for it, trust your instinct, but always make sure that it is making some sort of sense for the reader. Think about the person who will be reading your book, because the way in which you attempt your thesis, Vikram, might sometimes be iterative, which means that for example, after design thinking after doing the design, you might go back to concept and change it a little bit. So not chronological to that extent, but it should make sense for the person who's reading it. That's the thumb rule we try to keep in mind while doing a user centric design, and a book is also a piece of design, and we try to keep it relevant. Other than that, I can also this is a feedback that I've received from many people who've read my thesis book. My entire thesis book is up on issue. You can quickly Google Nishita Mohta issue and just have a look at my thesis. The reason I'm recommending it is because a lot of juniors have told me that they found it helpful. There's an index page. You can just look at the index page and maybe use that as a format for creating your own index. Don't copy it blindly, apply some thought to it, and then use it as a starting point. I hope that is helpful for you.
Okay. So that's a thumbs up for you, Nishita. Now, next
Awesome.
question is by Tushar.
Okay, hi Tushar.
Hello, Nishita. Good evening.
Good evening.
So my question is that are there any kind of aspects, or rather, the nature of the site that you would look into before selecting it to be part of your, I mean, to be the site for your thesis project?
Yeah, yeah, I would. I mean, there are many things. So two of the most basic things from a very quantitative perspective would be, I would really recommend that you don't pick a really large site, because sometimes people get carried away and they pick a really large site and they try to then fill it up with things that's not always very meaningful. Secondly, check for site accessibility, because but also now, to give you a disclaimer, all of these things depend on the nature of your project. It can be, for example, let me give you two extremes. If you're designing something like a nature retreat where you don't want accessibility, then why would you pick a site which has roads on all sides of it? And if you're doing something with like a shopping complex where you need more and more people to come in, then definitely you have to go ahead and check for maximum accessibility so that the functioning of your building, nature of the site supports the functioning of your building, rather than picking two things that are really different and trying to fit them together. Having said that, there are of course so many more constraints. It's always great to do a primary visit to the site, visit it yourself. So is it a place that you can go and understand? This is not just because the submission requires it, but I recommend it because visiting the site, you will not only see what Google Maps shows you, you will also see how people are currently using the peripheries of your site, how existing locals are interacting with your site. And these small observations about the existing people on the site, these are what can really inspire you along the design journey. So a site that you can visit and experience is always a good one to pick. So these are just some of the ideas that come to mind right now. And again, depending on the function, please pick a site that supports the function of your building.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Most welcome.
Yeah. So the next question is by, I do not know how to pronounce this. If you could just come on and just tell the pronunciation of your name, Oyub. You'll have to unmute yourself. I've sent you the request. Hi.
Hello, good evening. My name is Perniza. I'm from Philippines.
Okay, great.
Hi. You're from the Philippines.
Yeah.
Amazing. Hi.
Yeah, so my question is regarding the pandemic. I'm in my fourth year right now. Fourth year.
Okay.
Yes, and as of now I'm getting ready for my thesis. So I'm hoping for some thesis topic that will that will that will help this that we had right now, the pandemic. Maybe
Yeah.
some insights on how to make a project that will help us prevent this pandemic or this virus that we had right now, like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, thank you for such a question, which I think a lot of people might be thinking of right now, especially we're in 2021, and the pandemic has obviously affected how people use spaces. It has
Yes.
changed the way people use their homes. I would have never been sitting in my house and doing a webinar like this, and it has changed how people use offices. So many companies that I know of have given up their office space, and these spaces have become redundant. So it's a very relevant question that you've asked, but I want to quickly give a small comment on the problem that you're looking at solving. Firstly,
Okay.
I really appreciate that you have a problem in mind. Good architecture, good design should always solve a problem, and you do have a problem in mind, which is related to the pandemic. Now, just on the nature of the problem, you said that you want to create architecture that can prevent a pandemic like this, right? Now, um, I can't comment on what, because we can solve problems that we can understand very well.
Okay.
Um, I feel a little doubtful of how well all of us, like humanity in general, right now understands the nature of the virus. And we, over the past months, uh, medicos and scientists across the world have made a lot of progress. But I don't know if that's the correct problem that an architect should be targeting. However, what you can do is, if you really want to solve something related to the pandemic, how about you look at how how the nature of people's interaction with space has changed. So we cannot prevent a medical situation from occurring, probably, but what we can do is we can make living, like habitat and workspaces and everything, more comfortable for people in the face of the pandemic. um, I'd recommend you to do a user study, talk to select like user groups. This is a very quick tip. There are hundreds of different ways in which you can address this, but because we're in a very short webinar, I want to give you one or two very quick ideas. Now, one of the things you can do is select a target group. For example, think of teachers, right? Teachers
Mm-hmm.
were never used to teaching online, especially with like small kids, like class 1 or 2 kids. Look at teachers and see how you can make their life more easy. Is there architecture that can allow students to congregate without being at risk? Is there some new typology of building? Think that way. Think of the big changes that have happened in society, and is there a completely new typology of building that might emerge from this? I don't want to give you ideas in the solution space, but think of more problems, basically. Think of more problems that architecture can handle. So, yeah, I think that would be my feedback. But I think it's amazing that you're thinking of problems right now instead of jumping to the solution. Keep thinking of
Okay.
more problems which might not be medical, but maybe more societal, and which architecture can really solve.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yes. Yes. I understand. So thank you for that. I'm really thankful for for your answer. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll move on quickly to the next question by Urvashi. So I think this is something that crosses all of our minds. Urvashi, if you could just tell your question.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good
Hi,
evening.
Urvashi.
Good evening,
Good
Nishita
evening.
ma'am. So, my question is that is it all right to be a little uncertain or a little hesitant about your topic, the topic you've chosen, and
Yes.
but still, be believe that you can deliver it as per the jury indications and everything, like the thought process and everything. So, is it all right to be a little uncertain, a little
So,
scared?
just to understand your question a little better, are you asking me that you're not sure of the topic from your interest perspective, or from what angle are you not complete? First, I want to say yes, it's completely okay to be unsure. So that's a thumbs up. Okay,
Okay.
but to understand the nature of unsurety, can you explain that? Like, what are you unsure about?
So basically, it is more towards the interest inclination. Like,
Hmm.
personally, I've had a couple of topics in my mind and I've discussed it with my faculties, and they
Hmm.
are just all right with each and every topic as per the proposals I've given. But
Lucky you.
at the same time, I am not fully inclined or fully interested in delivering that entire thesis or think about it totally
Hmm.
about the
Hmm.
topic. So that is why is it.
And Urvashi, sorry to cut you short, but have you thought about what your interests are as a person
Yes, I
outside of
have.
the yeah? And have
Yeah.
you considered even if your interests don't completely inspire the topic, can there be parts of your interest which you find in the topic, in one of the many approved topics at hand? And secondly, I also want to say, now this goes a little beyond the four pillars, but what I also want to say is that sometimes the motivation for us to work on a project comes from other things. Sometimes you might be a little unsure of it from your personal interest perspective, but you feel that this is really beneficial to the community that I'm interested to benefit. You can feel excited about that as well. One of the main reasons for selecting a topic that you're really inclined towards is so that it keeps you motivated. But if you can find your motivation even without that personal interest per se, that is also fine.
All
You
right.
can
Yeah, I do
follow
get
up,
your
like
point.
even if this doesn't make sense, please feel free to follow up, because it's a little like
Sure.
intangible sort of a conversation.
I agree, I
Yeah.
agree. But yeah, that makes sense. It absolutely makes sense.
Yeah. Guys,
Thank you.
on this note, thanks Urvashi. On this note, because Urvashi spoke about unsurety and inspiration and personal interest, I want to invite all of you to have a look at my project called Vaccines for Fears, which I'll put it down in the chat. But it looks at this idea of creative fears and creative blocks and personal interest. So please go check it out, and you might find the solutions to some of these softer nuances of the creative process over there.
Okay, thank you, Nishita. So, Nishita, this is just to remind you, we'll be taking the questions a bit faster so
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we can cover more people. So,
yeah.
this question is very interesting. I think this is something all of us think. Zara, I've asked you to unmute. So, just hi.
Hi, am I audible?
Hi Zara.
Hi.
Yes.
My question is that in my college we have like a number of internal reviews and external reviews that happen, and
Yeah,
we have a number of mentors that guide us through the topic. So
yeah.
when I have certain topic in mind and I propose it to each one of them, each one
Hmm.
of them have different perspectives on it, different opinions on it. Some even contradict each other, like the opinions are sometimes polar opposite, and
Yeah,
and at one point you have to let me be honest, please every professor that that's in the college. So how
yeah.
someone handle that much opinion? Do I follow my heart, or do I decide to please one of the professors? Like, I am a bit in a dilemma there.
Yeah, Zara, this is a big dilemma for all of us as students. Um, and thank you for asking this question. It becomes really important at the thesis stage, because which immediately precedes professional life. So I want to quickly say, since you already understand that your professors also sometimes contradict each other, I want to give you the example of professional life, where architects don't build to just express themselves. They build for the community, and they also build projects that are commissioned by clients. So the exactly the way you have faculty right now, you will have clients in the future as well. And very often clients also contradict each other, and there's a certain sort of skillfulness that needs to be developed over time, and it only gets developed with practice. So I think dealing with the professors, just consider it practice for actually stepping out into the real world. Stay motivated, just trust yourself that you do have the correct answers. Think of it as more constraints. The every creative challenge comes with constraints, and these are some of the human constraints. And don't consider it frivolous or like extra, it's giving you too much headache. It is going to be a very real part of life in the professional world, whether you're an architect or graphic designer or whatever. So yeah, I think designers have to acknowledge that there are people, let's not say please, but people's needs have to be catered to. And
Right, right.
yeah, and practicing the skillfulness with faculty is just practice for the future.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
I,
very
I wish you all the best. It takes a lot of effort, and no one teaches us how to do this. Um, but yeah, right now, this is all I can say in this short time duration.
Thank you.
okay. So, the next
All the
question
best.
is by Joy. Joy, if you could ask your question.
Hello, Nishta.
Hi,
Am I
Joy.
audible?
I can hear you, but your voice is very faint.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, Joy, if you don't mind, I'll just read out your question
Oh,
because we aren't able to hear you.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, we
Can you
can
hear me
hear
Yeah,
you.
now?
yeah.
All right. So my question is that
how do I achieve storytelling for impact with my thesis? Because I saw on your slide there storytelling for impact and it really caught my eye. And also
Yeah.
design I am designing a drug rehabilitation center
Hmm.
and I want to coin a research topic from that. So how do I do that properly while having a good story to tell?
Okay.
Did you get that?
Uh,
Did you get that?
Yes, I heard your question. Thank you. Storytelling for impact is the entire fifth module of the course. Let me try to give you like a very quick essence of it. And if you want to sign up for the course, you can go for it. I think impactful storytelling is what connects human beings to the problem at hand. You know, we are designing buildings, but we are finally designing them for people, and people have stories relating to their problems and how they've overcome the problems and what they hope for the future. So instead of just narrating the design of the space, that okay, this is the ground floor, this is the first floor, second floor, talk about why the building came into being because of a certain human problem. Talk about how you, as Joy, what was your experience that led to the solutions that you have designed. Keep connecting it at a very human level so that people understand the building as a space for people's stories to play out rather than just a very like, like foundation and building and roof. So
Yeah.
that's a thumb rule, but there's a lot more in this, and I invite you to actually sign up for the course if you like. No pressure.
All right. Yeah, about the second part, I said I'm designing a drug rehab facility and I
Yeah.
need to coin a research topic from that. So how do I do that properly?
Sorry, you want
Because
to coin a?
a dissertation topic from it. Because I was thinking
Okay.
about doing something on sustainability or biophilia, like in helping the health of recovering addicts. So how do I do that properly, please?
So I think it's very quickly I'd say that if you've decided that your topic is drug rehabilitation center, definitely you have to look at human psychology. How does space affect behavior? That's a very big field of research if you want to go into that. Personally, my dissertation at SPA was on behavioral psychology and space. So that's just a very quick idea. I don't want you to take it at face value, but just think about like jumping into sustainability because it's an in thing doesn't really make sense immediately. Maybe think a little bit more about what the users of that building might need. If someone's a recovering drug addict, what is meaningful for them and what is meaningful for their caretakers and what is meaningful for you as a designer. So there will be many things over there.
Okay, thank you very much, Nishta. Really
You're most
appreciate it.
welcome.
Thank you,
All
Joy,
right.
for your question.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank
so Nishita, this is and to update everyone, we have 10 more minutes of Q&A, after which we'll end this session. So Ananya, your question next.
Hello.
Hi, Ananya.
Hi. Hi. I was actually wondering, since we are going through the dual challenge of the dissertation and thesis proposals right now, like next week, in a week from now, I'll have to present my proposal. Would you recommend that our dissertation topic be a concept or something architecturally backing up our thesis topic? Like, could it be something like a slightly surreal, like a concept, not a design strategy? Because I've noticed that our seniors mostly they like if they're proposing a green hotel, their dissertation will be related to something like sustainability. So
So, see, one thing, Ananya, just a disclaimer. I think the norms in different colleges are very different. In fact, for us, we did dissertation and thesis in entirely different semesters, in fact, and we had a component of thesis research which was completely separate. So, this structure is very different. But I think again the same rules apply. You know, the four pillars, they apply to any sort of selection. And if your question is whether your dissertation topic should be related to your thesis topic, I'd ask you to think more about whether that thesis topic is something that you want to go really deep into, or do you want to use the opportunity of your dissertation to explore a parallel interest as well. So give it a thought, take some time to think about it. You can go really deep into one topic, or you can have fun. You can do two topics if you feel you have the enthusiasm to see it through. It's hard for me to comment on the exacts because I don't know what the norm in your college is. So
Yeah, it's the
yeah.
same as yours. We have I'm in my seventh semester. I'm in my eighth semester right now, and we have
Mm-hmm.
a dissertation right now. And our next semester, our ninth semester, will be theses. So it's pretty similar to what you
Okay.
said.
Okay. So in that case, I'd say, listen, right now, go with what you feel like doing in dissertation. Don't try to plan for thesis in advance,
Okay.
because in those 6 months, there are so many new things that you will learn, Ananya. There are just focus on your dissertation for now. At the end of 6 months, you don't know, your mind would have grown a lot as a creative individual. Take a call on thesis at that point of time with all the new information that you would have.
But since our teachers, they ask for the thesis topic proposal and dissertation proposal together, we have to, and actually they even ask for side this things,
Oh, okay.
recommendations.
Then
So
go with my previous recommendation. Do you want to go deep into one thing, or you want to explore two things simultaneously and use the four pillars of selecting a good thesis topic, apply it to both things?
yeah. Also, I wanted to know, like, how can we make sure that, like, say if we don't have a super niche topic, how can we make sure that if our topic is slightly generic, like, say, for example, a hospital, uh, how can we make sure that it's not too mainstream and that we capture the jury's attention, like you said in the beginning during the proposal itself?
Okay, so I know like Vipanshi is wondering because there's like a second or third questions, but I think it's a fairly common one that if you have a generic topic like school, hospital, stadium, something like that, guys, remember, each one of you is a very unique individual. And when you add your perspective to it, there are 1,000 types of schools and there are 1,000 types of hospitals also. So think about what you want to go deep into. And this is where the filter of your personal interest comes into play and turns that slightly generic topic into a little more I won't say it has to be unique for the sake of being unique, but it can be unique so that you get a chance to express yourself through your project. That's all.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks a lot.
Thank you. So the last two questions and this I would request to take. We'll just take it very quickly. I think there are a few questions which we aren't being able to answer, but we'll try to answer them separately on our Instagram or through
Yeah.
to you guys. So one question by Akhil. So Akhil, if you could just quickly ask your question, and one question per person, please.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can
Right.
hear you, Akhil.
So my question is, what will I do if I couldn't find literature or live case study to back my thesis? So how will I start my study part? How to approach the thesis and my
So,
like initially I searched the internet or like net for the case studies or something like that. So
okay. So, is your case study, you're not able to find your case study because you're not able to search for it, or it simply doesn't exist?
I think my topic is like creating a cultural linkage space between international borders. Like we can consider Pakistan and India. So
Yeah.
my idea is to create a space linking the culture of these
Okay,
two
so you're
countries.
saying that I'm sorry to cut you short, but I've got the signal from Vipanshi to move really fast.
Oh,
What I'm understanding is that your topic is so unique that you can't find a direct case study.
yeah, same.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So think about this. My topic was also really unique because I came up with I just like designed a new typology of building. But see what you do have like a cross-border exchange. You do have language. You can look at language centers, and you can look at cross-border exchange. There will be many such sort of diplomatic spaces, and then take your learnings from both and craft something new. I think that's the exciting thing about designing, right? That you make something that didn't exist earlier. So even if you can't find an exact case study, that's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. Break your study down into pieces and look for references, appropriate references from different directions.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so the last question, and after that we'll head over for some feedback. So Agdas, I've requested an unmute. Hi. We cannot hear you. If you could be a bit louder. So what I'll do is I'll read out Agdas. I'll read out his question for you, Nishita. So here he basically talks that the 4 pillars that you talked about. He wants to understand how to compile those different aspects of the 4 pillar and use that framework effectively.
Yeah. So, Agnes, what happens is and this is a general thumb rule for any sort of design process, when you're thinking of the same problem, in this case, a thesis topic, from different parameters, I'll give you the very straightforward answer. Is to write them down and keep them all in front of you. Try to mix and match, like just make lines and see what things fit together. It's like doing permutation combination like we used to do in school, like what matches with what, and what are the different possibilities. So suppose you have 5 interests and skills, like some your skills and interests overlap, and there are 5 of those, and there are maybe 2 things that the community needs. Just see like what you can match across those categories, and how many possible building types can you come up with. So you can come up with up to like 10 types if you have like 5 and 2, right? Giving very simple example. Try to come up with a large number of ideas instead of looking for like one idea only. So create all those options, and then again like evaluate and see what works well for you, as a based on the other pillars as well. Like try to compare all of those things and see what unique thing you can do.
Okay, thank you, Nishita. So thank you, everyone. Now let's head over to a small feedback session. It was great having you. I'm so thrilled all of you attended the session, and we have still so many of you staying and listening into the questions. And I think it's this, constant sharing of questions and sharing of the feeling that you are not alone in something. I think that's what's so great about this, and how we can sort of learn from each other's mistakes, and how different experiences that we all share together. So a small poll from you guys to just tell us, to give feedback to 1:x on how the session was. And like I mentioned previously, we have half an hour remaining for the registrations to end for using Thesis Type. So we would love that if you could, go online. If you have any questions, just write to us or message us. We'll be answering that. Our team is there to answer and help you throughout the process. Okay, so all of you answering really fast. I'll share the results soon. And thank you for taking this time out on a Sunday. Okay, some of you are still left. Okay, so 80% of you have answered. Just few left. Okay, so I'll be closing the poll right now. I'm just giving it another 10 seconds. And I would urge you to go check out the course. And Nishita has been my mentor, and I guess today you might have seen how patient she is with answering all questions. She always has this unique perspective to add about things, and it really helps me. For example, whenever I have something to discuss, I always go to Nishita. So, okay, so I'm ending the poll. Thank you so much. And this is something we always do. I would request everyone to quickly open up their videos and we'll do a nice photo session just to capture and see all your faces. Also, the questions that were left unanswered, I have noted them all down. So I know some interesting questions were still left. Okay, everyone is adjusting their hair.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So great to see everyone.
Okay, you can get ready. I'll quickly take a photo.
I can see Abdullah
Yeah, we
from
have.
one of my previous courses.
Yeah.
I can only see 20 people at a time, so I can't move like I can. But this is really great to see all of you here.
Yeah, lots of familiar faces. So, hi guys, everyone can do me or I don't know, give a thumbs up for Nishita.
Guys, quickly type in the chat now. I'm very curious. Have any of you attended one of the earlier workshops with me?
Also, along with that, I'm curious to know where everyone is from. So just do one thing, type in your countries also, where you guys are logging in from. Philippines, okay, that's very interesting. We have people
Amazing.
from India, Dubai, Pakistan. I think it's great to have, such a great mix of people coming together and learning something. Thank you, Christiana. That was very sweet.
Yeah, thank you.
Photos for everyone. Just do something crazy. And after that, we will end this call. Okay, done. So thank you, everyone, and hope to see you in the live one-day workshop with Nishita that we are organizing for the participants, for you guys only. So see you, bye-bye. And in case you have anything, and if what we are doing at 1:X seems exciting to you and you want to be part of the tribe or be part of 1:X team, just send a message to us. I will personally respond to you guys and see what we can do together. So thank you and